My name is Claire Holloway. I'm 32 years old, and the first time my mother accused me of ruining my sister's life, it was over candlelight, white linen napkins, and a $75 plate of food I didn't even want. The fairy lights strung across my parents' backyard flickered softly, casting everything in a warm, golden glow that made the whole scene look prettier than it was. The kind of lighting meant to soften sharp edges, to hide rot. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly against the stone patio. "I'm not paying for the wedding," I said. The words hung there, heavy and unmistakable. Forks froze midair, wine glasses hovered inches from lips. The string quartet in the corner faltered, then stopped completely, the violinist glancing around like he'd just missed a cue. My mother's smile didn't drop right away. It stiffened first, stretched thin, like she was trying to force it to survive the moment. "What did you just say?" she asked. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears, loud and relentless. I was painfully aware of every eye on me, my dad at the head of the table, my aunts and uncles, cousins I barely spoke to anymore, family friends who'd known me since I was a kid and still thought of me as the serious one. Across from me sat my younger sister, Emily, 27, glowing in that effortless way brides always do when they're still convinced the world is on their side. Her engagement ring caught the light every time she moved her hand. She looked beautiful. She looked happy. And she looked completely blindsided. "I said," I repeated, forcing my voice to stay steady, "I'm not paying for the wedding." My mother let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Oh, don't be dramatic. You're tired. You didn't mean that." "I did," I said. My father set his napkin down with deliberate calm. "Claire," he said, warning in his tone, "this is not the time." "It's exactly the time," I replied. "You asked me to contribute. I said no. You didn't accept it. And now here we are." Susan Holloway pressed a hand to her chest like she might actually faint. "So you're really going to do this?" she asked, her voice rising just enough for the whole table to hear. "Right before your sister's wedding?" I swallowed hard. I already explained why. "No," she snapped. "You gave excuses." That word, excuses, hit something old and tender in me. Emily finally looked up. Her eyes were wide, shiny. "Claire, what are you talking about?" I turned toward her, my chest aching. "Em, we've talked about this." She shook her head. "No, you talked around it. Mom said you were just stressed, that you'd come around." Of course she did. My mother turned to the table, her voice trembling with carefully curated pain. "I don't understand how someone can be so cold, so selfish. This is your sister, her wedding." Someone, Aunt Marlene, I think, muttered, "Unbelievable." "I offered $10,000, I said. "That's not nothing." My father scoffed. "10,000 won't even cover the flowers." "That's not my responsibility," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. The reaction was immediate. Gasps, murmurs, the unmistakable ripple of judgment. Emily's face crumpled. "So that's it?" she asked, her voice shaking. "You're just not going to help me?" "I am helping, just not the way they want." My mother rounded on me. "After everything we've done for you?" There it was, the line they always used. My stomach tightened. "You mean after I worked 2 jobs through college? After I paid my own rent? After—" "That's enough," my dad barked. But the dam had already cracked. 2 weeks earlier, I'd been sitting alone in my apartment in Wicker Park, eating cold pad thai straight from the container, when my mom called. Her voice had that familiar mix of sweetness and strain. "Claire, honey, we need to talk about the wedding fund." My chest tightened immediately. "How much?" I asked. A pause, long enough to feel intentional. "We were thinking 40,000. I laughed then, too, a sharp, disbelieving sound that escaped before I could stop it. "For a wedding?" I asked. "For Emily," she corrected, "and it's not like you don't have it." That sentence haunted me now, echoing in my head as I stood under those stupid lights, being judged by people who had never once offered to carry the weight they were so eager to assign me. "I don't trust you with money," I said quietly. The table went silent. My mother stared at me like I'd slapped her. "How dare you?" "I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm saying it because last time I trusted you, my savings disappeared." Emily frowned. "What?" My father set his napkin down with deliberate calm. "Claire," he said, warning in his tone, "this is not the time." "It's exactly the time," I replied. "You asked me to contribute. I said no. You didn't accept it. And now, here we are." My mother laughed bitterly. "Oh, please, you've always been dramatic." "I've always been careful," I said. "There's a difference." My cousin Jason leaned back in his chair. "Must be nice to think you're better than everyone." I felt heat rush to my face. This isn't about being better. It's about boundaries. "Boundaries," my mother scoffed. "Family doesn't need boundaries." That sentence explained everything. Emily pushed her chair back and stood, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I can't believe you," she said, her voice shaking. "I would do this for you." I swallowed hard. "I know you would, and that's why I'm scared for you." She shook her head, hurt turning quickly into anger. "You always think you know better." "Because I've had to." My mother pointed at me, her voice sharp and final. "If you walk away from this, don't be surprised when your sister never forgives you." The words landed like a threat. I looked around the table one last time. Not a single face met mine with understanding, just disappointment, contempt, relief that it wasn't them being blamed. I picked up my purse. I'm not walking away from my sister. I'm walking away from manipulation. And then I left. That night, my phone stayed silent. The next morning, Emily blocked me. 3 days later, my mom sent a text. "If you cared about this family, you'd fix this." I stared at the message for a long time, because the truth, the one I wasn't ready to say yet, was that something had been wrong in our family for a long time, and the wedding was just the thing that finally dragged it into the light. The wedding was still 4 months away, but the fallout hit immediately. By Monday morning, my phone was vibrating non-stop. Missed calls, voicemails, texts that ranged from wounded to outright hostile. My Aunt Marlene left a message that started with a sigh and ended with, "I just don't recognize you anymore." My cousin Jason texted, "Hope your money keeps you warm when you're alone." A family friend I hadn't spoken to in years wrote, "Your parents are devastated. I hope you're proud." Emily said nothing. That silence hurt more than all of it combined. I went back to work like nothing was wrong, rode the blue line downtown every morning with strangers pressed too close, stared at spreadsheets while my chest felt hollow. I told myself I'd done the right thing. I told myself I'd always known this was coming. At night, though, the doubt crept in. Maybe I should have just written the check. Maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe this was the price of being the difficult daughter. Then, 2 weeks later, the wedding venue fell through. I heard about it from my mom, not Emily. She called me while I was in line at a coffee shop, her voice trembling with urgency. "We need to talk, now." "I'm at work," I said. "What's going on?" "The venue canceled," she snapped, "because of you." I closed my eyes. How is that my fault? If you had just stepped up like we asked, this wouldn't be happening. Now Emily's heartbroken. Something about the way she said it, too quick, too rehearsed, made my stomach twist. "Why did they cancel?" I asked. A pause. "Budget issues," she said, "which wouldn't be an issue if you'd helped." After I hung up, I stared at my phone, that old familiar unease creeping up my spine. The same feeling I'd had when I was 19, when numbers didn't add up, when explanations felt slippery. That night, I drove to Emily's apartment in Logan Square. Her place was usually warm and cluttered, fairy lights draped over the bookshelf, half-finished mugs of tea everywhere. That night, it felt empty. Boxes stacked near the wall, her dress bag hung untouched on the closet door. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly, opening the door just enough to see me. "I know," I replied, "but I needed to talk to you." She hesitated, then stepped aside. We sat on opposite ends of the couch like strangers. "The venue canceled," she said flatly. "I heard. They said the deposit didn't clear." My heart skipped. "What deposit?" "The second one," she said, frowning. "Mom and Dad said it was taken care of months ago." I leaned forward. "Emily, how much money have you given them?" She stiffened. "Why?" "Just tell me." She picked at a loose thread on the couch cushion. 35,000 from my savings, and I put 10 on a credit card." The room tilted. "You gave them $45,000? "They said it was temporary," she said quickly, "just until some things came through." "Like what?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. "I don't really know. Investments, the restaurant idea they were talking about last year." My pulse roared in my ears. "Did you see any paperwork?" I asked. She shook her head. "They said it was boring stuff that I wouldn't understand." I let out a slow breath. "Emily, when I was 19, they did the same thing to me." Her eyes flicked up. "What do you mean?" "They asked me to move my savings into a joint account, said it was for a few months. I never got it back." Her face drained of color. "You never told me." "Because I thought it was a one-time thing," I said softly. "I thought I was the problem." She laughed weakly. "They told me you were just bad with money." Of course they did. Over the next week, cracks started appearing everywhere. The florist pulled out, then the caterer, then the photographer emailed saying payment hadn't been received. Emily started calling me at night, her voice shaking. "They said it's just a delay. They promised it'll be fine. They said I shouldn't stress." But she was stressing. I could hear it in her breathing. One evening, she called me crying so hard I could barely understand her. "They maxed out another card," she sobbed, "one I didn't even know they had access to." That was it. I asked her to bring every bank statement she had. We spread them out across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. Paperwork everywhere, coffee gone cold, the city humming outside my window. The pattern was undeniable. Withdrawals she didn't recognize, transfers to accounts with vague names, payments labeled investment with no details. "This isn't normal," I said quietly. Emily stared at the numbers like they might rearrange themselves if she looked long enough. "They wouldn't steal from me," she said. "They already have," I said gently. She shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. "There are parents." That sentence used to stop me too. We drove to my parents' house the next morning. My dad answered the door, annoyance already written across his face. "What is this about?" he asked. Emily stepped forward, holding the statements with trembling hands. "Why is my money gone?" My mother appeared behind him, arms crossed. "Lower your voice." "No," Emily said. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. "You told me the money was safe." "It is safe," my dad snapped. "It's invested." "In what?" Silence. Emily's voice cracked. "You promised." My mother sighed as if we were exhausting her. "You're being dramatic. Money moves around. That's how adults handle things." Emily looked at me, something breaking behind her eyes. "You used me," she whispered. My father's expression hardened. "We did what we had to do." "For what?" I demanded. Neither of them answered. We left without another word. In the car, Emily finally cried the way you do when denial collapses, loud, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. "I trusted them," she kept saying. "I trusted them over you." I reached over and took her hand. "You trusted them because they trained you to." The wedding was officially postponed 2 days later. The story my parents told everyone was that Emily needed time to regroup, that stress had gotten to her, that family drama, meaning me, had ruined everything. But the truth was already spreading. Vendors started calling Emily directly, credit card companies sent letters, late notices piled up. And Emily, for the first time in her life, stopped defending them. "I don't think they ever planned to pay anyone," she said one night, voice hollow. "They didn't," I said. She stared at the wall, swallowing hard. "Then what was the wedding fund for?" I didn't answer right away, because I already knew. And in my gut, I could feel it. Whatever came next was going to be worse than the fight, worse than the silence, worse than being painted as the villain. The truth was coming, and it was going to destroy what was left of our family. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It came in pieces, ugly, sharp ones that cut deeper the longer we held them. It started with a voicemail. Emily called me at work, her voice flat and hollow. "The bank froze my account." I left early that day, took the blue line home with my hands shaking, mind racing through worst-case scenarios. By the time I unlocked my apartment door, she was already there, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at her phone like it had betrayed her personally. "They said there were irregular transfers," she told me. "Large ones. Recent." "How recent?" I asked. She slid the phone toward me. The last transfer had been made 2 days earlier. 2 days ago, while she was crying to me about losing vendors. 2 days ago, while our parents were still telling everyone they were handling things. "They're still taking money," I whispered. Emily nodded. Her face looked older somehow, like something essential had burned out. That night, she finally did what I'd never managed to do at her age. She logged into everything. Bank accounts, credit cards, old savings funds our parents had set up when she was a kid, accounts she hadn't touched in years because she trusted them to manage. What we found made my stomach turn. Money had been siphoned out in increments small enough to avoid alarms at first. 5,000 here, 8 there, then larger chunks once they realized no one was watching closely. Some transfers were labeled event expenses. Others were just blank. "Where did it go?" Emily asked, her voice barely audible. "I think I know," I said. I didn't want to be right. The next morning, I took a personal day and started digging. Public records, business filings, anything with my parents' names attached. What I found was worse than incompetence. They'd opened multiple LLCs over the past 3 years, all inactive, all empty, all conveniently vague, shells. One of them, registered 18 months earlier, had a familiar bank routing number. I cross-checked it. It matched one of the accounts Emily's money had been wired to. "This wasn't a mistake," I said out loud to my empty apartment. "This was planned." When Emily arrived later that afternoon, I showed her everything. She didn't cry this time. She just stared. "They knew," she said slowly. "They always knew." "Yes, and they counted on you not questioning them." Her jaw clenched. "They said you were ungrateful, that you were selfish, that you didn't care about family." I swallowed. "They said the same about you whenever you weren't around." She let out a short, humorless laugh. "So we were always the problem, just separately." We drove to our parents' house that evening without calling first. The sun was setting, painting the street in warm orange light that didn't match the cold in my chest. The house looked exactly the same as it always had. neatly trimmed bushes, porch light on, picture perfect normal. My dad opened the door, irritation already on his face. This isn't a good time. Emily stepped forward, holding a folder thick with printouts. You took my money. My mom appeared behind him, lips pursed. Emily, sweetheart, you're upset. Let's talk later. No, Emily said. Her voice was calm, and that scared me more than if she'd been screaming. You drained my accounts, you lied to me, and you used my wedding as an excuse. My father scoffed. You're being dramatic. I stepped in. We have records. That made him pause. Emily laid the papers out on the entryway table. Explain these. They barely glanced at them. My mother sighed. We were under a lot of pressure. That's not an answer, Emily said. My dad crossed his arms. Family helps family. You stole from me, Emily said, louder now. My mom's face hardened. We brought you into this world. We sacrificed everything for you. You owe us. The words landed like a slap. I watched my sister's face change in real time. The hope, the denial, the instinct to protect them gone. You don't get to say that, Emily replied quietly. Not after this. My dad's voice rose. If you hadn't panicked, if you hadn't listened to your sister— Don't, Emily snapped. Don't blame her. She tried to warn me. I didn't listen. I felt something loosen in my chest. You ruined my wedding, my mom said, her voice sharp and bitter. You embarrassed us. Emily stared at her. You ruined my future. Silence swallowed the room. My father shook his head. You're overreacting. This will blow over. Emily laughed, a sound edged with disbelief. You really think this just goes away? We'll figure something out, my mom said dismissively. No, Emily replied. You won't, because I'm done. They both froze. I'm closing every account you have access to. I'm reporting the fraud, and I'm not giving you another dollar. My mom's face crumpled, not with remorse, but with anger. After everything we've done for you? Emily's voice didn't waver. You don't get to keep hurting me just because you're my parents. I'd waited my whole life to hear someone say that out loud. We walked out without another word. In the car, Emily finally exhaled, a long, shaky breath, like she'd been holding it for years. I feel sick, she admitted, but also lighter. That's what freedom feels like, I said. The weeks that followed were brutal. Legal paperwork, calls from creditors, angry messages from extended family who'd heard a very different version of events. Our parents told anyone who listened that we were vindictive, ungrateful, manipulative. We blocked every number. Emily moved out of her apartment and into a smaller place across town. We spent nights on my couch sorting through bills, highlighting statements, building a plan from the wreckage. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't fast, but it was honest. One night, surrounded by paperwork and half-eaten takeout, Emily looked up at me and said, I used to think you were cold. I smiled sadly. I used to think that too. You weren't. You were just protecting yourself. I nodded. I wish I'd known how to protect you too. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You did. I just wasn't ready to see it. Months passed. The wedding never happened. The engagement quietly ended, not because of us, but because Emily finally saw how much of herself she'd been shrinking to keep other people comfortable. Our parents stopped trying eventually, not because they understood, but because we stopped responding. And one evening, sitting on my balcony as the city lights flickered on, Emily leaned her head against my shoulder and said, I don't think family is supposed to hurt like this. It's not, I said. That's how you know it was never really love, just control. She nodded slowly. Then you're my family. My throat tightened. You always were. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the difficult daughter, or the selfish sister, or the villain in someone else's story. I felt like someone who finally chose the truth, and chose herself. And that, it turned out, was worth everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.